A teenager with electricity power who flies around on a trash can lid and has some of the coolest hair in fiction. That's Static Shock. Let's get into some nostalgia.
Come on in and forget all your troubles and worries, and join Mandatory Fun Day for Simpler Times Saturday.
I'll be reading some of my favorite comments at the end, so drop yours as you go. Static Shock ran on Kids WB from September 23rd, 2000 to May 22nd, 2004. It had 4 seasons and 52 episodes. It was set in Dakota City, and it follows 14-year-old Virgil Hawkins, who becomes the superhero Static after a mutagenic event known as the Big Bang grants electromagnetic powers to dozens of local teens. The series later ties directly into the DC Animated Universe, or DCAU, enabling team-ups with Batman, Superman, and the Justice League. Virgil's home base is the Hawkins household. His father, Robert, runs a community center and is his moral compass. His sister, Sharon, keeps him honest. And his best friend, Richie Foley, evolves from confidant to partner as gear after prolonged Big Bang exposure amps his intelligence. Static's toolbox is brainy, a collapsible magnetic static saucer, ad hoc Faraday tricks, and on-the-fly gadgeteering with Richie, often solving problems as much with science as with shock bolts. Static Shock tackled a lot of, adult issues, and it packaged them in a way that was really understandable for children. For example, Sons of the Fathers, that episode, it confronted Richie's father's bigotry head on, and it lets the character wrestle with it without a tidy lecture. It tackled homelessness and trauma, and Frozen Out, it tells Permafrost's story with empathy, linking her lashing out to grief and life on the street. It tackled school and gun violence and bullying. In the episode Jimmy, it culminates with Static breaking the fourth wall. The script by Dwayne McDuffie and Alan Burnett won the 2003 Humanitas Prize, which is a prize in children's animation. Grief and parental loss were touched on. In Flashback, it takes Virgil to the night his mother died during the Dakota riots. The point is closure, not erasure. You even had, prominent characters with learning disabilities. Where the Rubber Meets the Road showed us Rubberband Man and his dyslexia, ending with a brief public service announcement style epilogue. Dakota's villains were mostly bang babies, kids twisted by the same event, not faceless monsters. Ebon was the living shadow, and he leads the meta breed with methodical menace. Hotstreak was the fire guy, and he's basically just raw volatility with red hair. I mean, with hair like that, I don't know what anybody else would have expected him to have as a power. Talon was a winged screamer, and Puff was could turn into a gas form. I don't know why it was so hard for me to get through that just now. I'm not having a stroke. Then there was Rubberband Man, who was introduced as a villain chasing a stolen song, later reforming and dating Sharon, whose dyslexia episode becomes one of the series' most grounded pivots from fight to help. Virgil Hawkins, or Static, was voice acted by Phil Lamar, who also voice acted Samurai Jack in Samurai Jack, and Hermes Conrad in Futurama. He was also John Stewart, the Green Lantern in Justice League and Justice League Unlimited, and he was Marvin in Pulp Fiction.
Marvin, what do you make of all this?
The video is not yet over, but I want you guys to head over to themandatoryfunday.com if you would like to support me further. You can buy a shirt, a hat, coffee mug, water bottle, a bunch of stuff. I've got everything. We've got everything, I swear. I just don't have any of the mutagenic stuff that gave Static his powers. In addition to that, we've got a link, on the website where you can take a look at some regulation compliant shirts if you're military. I'm in the military, and you can wear these under your uniform. Finally, there's a membership-only section on the website where I put exclusive content, and members get 20% off on merchandise purchases. Richie Foley, or Gear, was voiced by Jason Marsden. He was Max Goof in a Goofy movie and an extremely Goofy movie. He was Haku in Spirited Away, and Chester McBadbat in The Fairly OddParents. Robert Hawkins was voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson, and he was Captain Gantu in Lilo and Stitch. He was Cleveland Jr. and Lester Crinklesack in The Cleveland Show, and he was the Joker in The Batman.
Say cheese.
I gotta tell you guys too, the voice actor part is one of my favorite parts to tell you guys about, because it's so interesting. And then you go back and you think about it, you hear the voice in these other characters. It's different, but it's the same. Daisy Watkins was voiced by Crystal Scales, and she was Libby Fulfax in The Adventures of Jimmy Neutron Boy Genius. Francis Hotstreak Stone was voiced by Danny Cooksey. He was Bobby Budnick in Salute Your Shorts, and he was Tim in Terminator 2 Judgment Day. He was also Montana Max in Tiny Toon Adventures and Jack Spicer in Xiaolin Showdown, and I actually have a Xiaolin Showdown tattoo right there. I don't know why I lifted up my sleeve. I just forgot where it was for a second. Overall, again, this was one of my absolute favorite shows as a kid. The character arcs are really good. I mean, you saw Richie go from just a normal kid to, finding out he's also a bang baby and he has his own really, really cool powers, and he was a really, really great compliment to Static. The villains all felt believable and relatable, to kids, and the messages that they communicated were really, really understandable to me as a child. I grew up, I didn't really face like racism, for example, but that's definitely a problem that some people face. And I'm glad to know that there were kids that were able to watch the show and see that dealt with in a way that was understandable to them. That's really cool. Warner Brothers Animation staffed the show with veterans from Batman the Animated Series and Superman the Animated Series, with Dennis Cohen producing and Dwayne McDuffie steering stories. Musically, Stanley Clark sets a jazz funk tone in season 1. Later seasons pivot to a hip-hop opener featuring Lil Romeo and Master P. The show earned multiple nods and a Daytime Emmy win in 2004 for Richard Wolf's music direction and composition. Along with, again, they won the 2003 Humanitas Prize for Jimmy. You can buy the series in major places where you can, get other media. I don't want the video to get tanked, so I'm not going to say the names. All right, let's get into some comments. I don't remember what video these comments came from, so Steve, please put that on the screen, please. Ed Litton 4465 said, "It really comes across how much you enjoyed these shows. It's great to see. Keep up the great work, and Static Shock would definitely be a great one." Well, here we are with Static Shock. Thank you very much. I appreciate that comment. Yeah, I mean, these shows shaped my childhood, truly. I literally have a lot of them tattooed on me, as well as video games. A number of years ago, I talked to a counselor, and the counselor told me watching these old shows from your childhood can actually help bring you back to like a simpler time. And that's part of where the inspiration for Simpler Time Saturday came from. And it can help alleviate anxiety and just kind of help give you a reset, help give you kind of a mental breather. And so I still watch a lot of these shows to this day. And I get to watch them with my daughters now, which is, can't beat that. Thank you so much for reassuring me once again that I'm not alone remembering how amazing this was. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the comment. I really, really appreciate it. It means a lot. These shows were such a staple for so many of us. And I've found that in the human experience, finding similarities is always better. It doesn't matter if we look different, we're different genders, we come from different places. You can make a connection with somebody over something as simple and silly as a cartoon. And I found that is very powerful at times. This show shaped a lot of my sense of justice and friendship as a kid. Also has a great underlying message of respect. Great show. Yeah, a lot of these shows had some really, really phenomenal messages, and messages that were packaged in a way that was digestible and understandable and appropriate for children. And honest to God, I look back on a lot of this stuff now and I'm like, these people were like genius. These artists were like geniuses the way that they delivered this. It really makes me envious. I consider myself a storyteller. I'm a stand-up comedian. I'm a keynote speaker, but I consider myself a storyteller in a lot of ways. And these guys they're the Michael Jordans of storytelling. KE Soldier 8074 said, "Started following your content on Insta, and probably one of my favorite channels, man. Huge respect from a fellow vet. Suggestion for another throwback, Rurouni Kenshin. First off, great show. Second, thank you so much for that comment. Really, really appreciate that." Yeah, Rurouni Kenshin was a phenomenal one, and man, I would it's been so long since I watched it, I probably need to rewatch that one. But that was a great one, and now you're bringing back some really, really fun memories, so thank you so much. I love these shows, I truly do, and this is by far my favorite series. Beast or God said, "My new favorite anime channel." That's, I really appreciate that, man. I really do, genuinely. Gosh. That means a lot. I never really know what I'm gonna do with the content. I do things that I enjoy because I feel that if it brings me joy, then it's gonna bring others joy, and that's the goal. The goal is to just make people happy and make people laugh and make people smile and bring some joy to people while we're in a world that, quite frankly, I don't think there's enough of it. Robert Chet 2653 says, "When's the video about Beyblade's going to be made? It was right there with Metabots for me growing up." Beyblade, had the greatest intro ever. Great comment. Yeah, Beyblade was one of my absolute favorite, and it was so cool. Like a lot of shows where I could have live toys or play video games that really emulated the shows well. Those were some of my favorites. You know, Metabots had a really, really good set of games that I spent countless hours on it. You could swap out the parts and stuff like that. Beyblade had some really good games too, but I loved the actual physical tops that you could play with and swap out and stuff like that. And I think all of us at one point or another tried to modify them somehow to make them better. But yeah, no, Beyblade would be a great one to do. General Nawaki said, I love this show and I think you can find episodes on YouTube. I may be wrong though. Also, mandatory fun day. How many service members have you met that had the TISM? No comment. I'm just kidding. I'll comment. Most of us. I would say most of us. You know, you'll meet some incredibly socially awkward people in the military. I'm one of them. Our entire country was built on conspiracy theories is now my second favorite conspiracy theory quote. Right after Colonel Hunter gathers saying, the minute God crapped out the third caveman, a conspiracy was born. That's really funny. And I feel like I came up with that, but there's no original idea, so I probably didn't. I probably heard it from somewhere else and regurgitated it. But yeah, I mean, the United States of America was built on conspiracy theories, and that's why we love them as much as we do. I see that Agumon tattoo. You got to do Digimon. I am going to do Digimon. I just haven't yet decided if I'm going to do it as like a multi-part series, or if I'm going to do one episode straight through and then do a multi-part series, or just one episode straight through and just leave it at that. Like, because there's so much lore involved in Digimon, and I mean, each season is like very different. You know, each season introduced, I mean, they went buck wild. If they had an idea, I swear to God, they'd show up to the boardroom meeting and they would just be like, all right, let's fuse them together now. Hey, let's make a refrigerator look like a dog and then put a cannon on it. Yeah, I mean, I feel like that's how it probably went. My favorite conspiracy theory is that MFD is a psyop, but that isn't just a theory. I'm never ever gonna beat these allegations, but you know, if you guys saw my legal bills, you would know I'm not a psyop. I totally didn't know you make videos like this, not missing a single episode moving forward. I used to dream of Metabots when I was a kid. Metabots truly was one of my absolute favorites. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. And I literally just watched the first season of Metabots with my kids. My daughter, when I pick her up from school, she'll say, Dad, my youngest daughter, Linnea, she's 4. She'll say, Dad, can we watch the robot video? And she means Metabots, you know. I am Mandatory Fun Day. This was Simpler Time Saturday, and that was a small piece of childhood nostalgia.